Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Echelon Cycling Podcast, where we talk about what's been happening in pro cycling in the week and also look ahead to the week ahead. And today, of course, I'm joined by, as always, Audio cycling and creator, and more importantly, Netflix star, Patrick. And of course, also Mr. Curling himself, Ewan Wilson. And guys, National Champs Week just happened. I love this weekend. And Patrick and I, we were at the national road race. I was actually at the national time trial as well. Tarling won, 19-year-old youngest winner ever in British history, which was incredible. But yeah, Patrick and I actually didn't meet up, which was a bit confusion. But Patrick, you might as well tell us what happened in the British cycling.
It was just like every single weather condition you could imagine. It was sort of like imagine the 2019 World Championships, but without like every big nation there, and it was just like a national event. It was kind of like that. There was lightning over the ocean. There were just thunderstorms and thunder. It was crazy. I'm surprised there weren't more crashes, to be honest, but it was a very attritional race basically. Just every time it went into Saltburn, there's this steep kind of 20% climb, and it was just a slow whittling down process, to be honest with you, until eventually on the going into the last lap, James Knox attacked, brought away a group with Stephen Williams and Fred Wright. Eventually, with a couple of little moves that they were doing amongst each other, it was eventually Fred Wright who pinged off the front and took a few seconds only into that final climb. And I did think that James Knox was going to, with my absolute ferocious screaming at him, I thought he was going to close the gap, but he didn't. And it was Fred Wright who took victory, which I think is a very it's a crowd pleasing moment. I think everybody generally likes Fred Wright. He's just a very modest, good personality, I think, and I think it was a good winner. He was very emotional. It's his first pro victory, I think it is. So good to see, and we'll see that national champs jersey at the tour. So very looking forward to seeing what Bahrain will do with that. They are quite good at their national champs jerseys. It's not like a UAE situation. So I think it'll actually be quite good this time.
The time trial as well, we had plenty of new winners. Joao Almeida winning in Portugal. I don't know why I brought him up first, but Josh Tarling. Denmark, we had Matthias Skjelmose almost winning that title. Unfortunately, he didn't. Kasper Eskheid taking it once again. Was there a time trial on the time trial front that kind of stood out for you guys?
I think it was the Belgian one that kind of stood out for me. I think there was a little bit of stuff around there. Evenepoel had a crash there and Wout van Aert won, but I think the main thing is almost this Alex Segaert who won. No, he didn't win. I was going to say he won second place. That seems a bit weird to say. But he was in second place and he's, 20 years old, something like that. And this guy is just insane, considering that he then doubled down with another second place in the road race behind Evenepoel in a two-up sprint. This guy has got some serious beans.
Alex Segaert has to be one of the breakout stars of the past week. Such a strong performance there. We knew his name, but finishing second in the time trial and the road race at the age of just 20, he put himself firmly in the map this week. In the United States, actually, I thought Brandon McNulty winning the USTT was quite a nice result, continuing the momentum he's been building this year as well. I'm intrigued to see how UAE handle the Star Spangled Banner jersey. They're not usually known for their national championship designs, but maybe this year will be a little bit different. Also, Jos van Emden winning in the Netherlands was a bit of a sort of return to the old guard. We've had Bauke Mollema, Tom de Milan, and Wilco Kelderman winning over the years, but Jos van Emden is this kind of older statesman of Jumbo-Visma and of Dutch cycling, so it's good to see him win that one once again.
Neither of you mentioned Tadej Pogačar winning.
It's just a given.
Yeah, against the field, it wasn't like there was a Jan Tratnik, he's recovering from injury. Roglic, whatever he's doing, still celebrating the Giro win. But there was an improvement on his 2020 win. I think it was around a minute and a half. So maybe that is good signs for that. But we're not going to go on to Tadej Pogačar just yet. In terms of the road races, Remco Evenepoel winning it as world champion. And was there any other big results that kind of caught your eye in terms of the road race? Matthias Skjelmose winning in Denmark. That was a huge result for him. And good to have one of the GC riders, or hopefully one of the GC riders, wearing the Danish kit. And Christoph, not just, but his teammate taking the victory and him finishing second.
Pogačar did have some opposition here. Bahrain Victorious had a double act of
Oh yeah,
Mohoric
true. Yeah,
and Govekar.
that's true. That's true.
Weren't that well? They tried to chase and then they couldn't. Pogačar and Mezgec they were joking around, they were passing drinks and stuff to each other. They're having a conversation, literally riding two abreast at some points until the final 2 kilometers where they actually decided to race. Pogačar attacked the climb and that was it done. Feel a bit sad because like Mezgec, he's done so much for Slovenian cycling. He's been around there for so long. I don't think he's won it before, but I mean, it's Pogačar. Pogačar winning this is quite a big deal for Slovenia, and I'm intrigued to see how they handle the Slovenian jersey again. Will it be like a mountain style design like Roglic's 2020, that iconic Slovenian champions kit, or will it be like Pogačar's old Slovenian champions kit that he rode in the time trials in 2020? That one was not the best, but we'll find out. UAE, there's a lot of pressure in your hands this year.
There's also one which I think you and I will definitely be liking is that Valentin Madouas won the French national champs, which is just so good. I mean, Ewan's got the good flag in the background as well, representing Madouas. I think that was a good one. And I saw that, I thought, yes, felt like such a perfect moment. Who else won? Dylan van Baarle is Dutch champion. Lazcano is Spanish champion. He beat Ayuso, and Ayuso didn't win the Spanish TT champs either, which is surprising considering he won the TT in Tour de Suisse. I was a bit like, maybe he just didn't care as much. I don't really know. I mean, outside of that, there's Emmanuel Buchmann won the German one, and Quinn Simmons won the USA. Mark Hirschi is back once more. He won the Swiss championship as well. So UAE are getting lots of national champs jerseys, and now I'm scared that we're not going to see anything. Hirschi will just have this tiny little, just like Swiss thing just on his arm or something, just like nowhere. But I'm looking forward, especially to Madouas, because we know how good Groupama go with their jerseys. You know, just look back to Kung and Genietz in the past couple of years, and the fact that it's going to be the French one as well. You know, that's going to be a serious one. Like it's going to be good. It'll be like Amaral when he was in his TT jersey. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing what Groupama do for Madouas going into the Tour. I think that's going to be a real special jersey.
Mezgec won the Nationals back in 2017, so he has tasted success. Tadej Pogačar hasn't tasted success.
Okay,
so.
there we go. Thank you for the correction there, because I was feeling like I just couldn't remember him being in the jersey. But the French Championships was, I'm going to say, the best one of the weekend. It was so chaotic. The French one is always like strange because like you have a couple of teams with like 20 riders in the race, which is like Groupama, Arkea, Ajudeza, Total. They're all there, and the first like 2 hours were just, it was so crazy. Big groups all across the road. You had like Quentin Pacher like in a group with a 2-minute lead with a couple of other favorites. Bernard Cosnefroy attacking with 90 kilometers to go. Juna Alaphilippe was vomiting on the bike and had to pull out of the race. It was so chaotic. And I mean, it was all like with Groupama, you couldn't tell who they were going for. And then at about 20 kilometers to go, Madouas goes for it and the race was done. I think everyone was just so tired. It was raced so attritionally that once Madouas went, it was like game over and he got a very big lead very quickly. That was definitely an interesting one to watch. Netherlands as well. Dylan van Baarle rode a solid race. Mathieu van der Poel was trying to chase on but couldn't follow. And then van der Poel and Olaf Kooi were chasing in a group behind. It was in Limburg as well. So it was like hilly Netherlands as well. So you would have thought that would suit Mathieu van der Poel, but it did not in the end. Also in the Czech Republic, do you have this strange dynamic of the Czechoslovak national championships? So the Czech Republic and Slovakia still do theirs together. Matthias Vácek won the race for the Czech Republic. And in the sprint behind, Peter Sagan crashed into Pavel Bittner about 5 meters after crossing the line. Both of those riders got second. The win in Slovakia went to...
not Sagan, crucially.
It wasn't Sagan, and it's not a rider I'm familiar with. Matus Stoček, who won, but you could see Sagan in his final Slovak championships, probably. He just crashes across the line. I think it's kind of like it's symbolic of where Sagan's season has been ever since he won that championship last year and how it's sort of gone downhill. And I feel sorry for Pavel Bittner as well. He was so close to winning that race, and they just come clashing down across the line, and I think they struck a photographer or something after the finish as well. So that was a bit of a rough one. And yeah, I mean, Ben Healy as well in Ireland. Good to see him back in the Irish champions jersey. I'd love them to spice it up and give it a little bit of green, white, and gold, but I don't think they will for the years to come. So yeah, it was definitely an interesting national championships weekend. We have plenty of big winners or big riders wearing those jerseys next year. Well, this year rather.
Nevertheless, we spoke about Tadej Pogačar, and I mean, plenty of people has called Ewan Pogačar fanboy, and we're going to take this opportunity to say, why is Tadej Pogačar going to be winning the 2023 Tour de France? We'll let Patrick go first, and then Ewan can yeah.
All right, I was gonna let Ewan go first and kind of let it rip. I think that Pogačar will win. Well, actually, to be fair, I do kind of think that he will win. I think that UAE with Adam Yates in there. I think that Jumbo-Visma having Roglic there last year was really good. That really helped Jonas, and I don't think that he has that this year. But I do think that could Yates, he has been looking better this year at UAE in comparison to when he was at Ineos last year. And I am thinking whether UAE could deploy Yates and put pressure on Jonas. I think it's a possibility if they try and keep him up there in GC. You have to remember that I know he was dropped at by a fair margin in the Dauphiné by Jonas, but Roglic was like a little fair bit back in GC when we were going up the Galibier, and yet Pogačar still reacted. So I think that Pogačar will win based upon team dynamics. I think that Jumbo-Visma might be a bit regimented, and I think that UAE are pretty willing to throw the kitchen sink at it, and I think that they might just catch Jumbo-Visma off guard. Pogačar will be better at picking up bonus seconds. That doesn't make the race, but it will help to put pressure on Jonas to do something, because if they're ahead in GC, then it's all on Jonas to try and do the attacks rather than be the one defending. So I think it'll be based upon team dynamics and also just Pogačar just being Pogačar and just his aggressive racing style. Yeah, I do think, honestly, that Pogačar will win this race. And I'm looking forward to seeing how he's going to do it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting. That team dynamic, as you said, with Adam Yates, they could probably fit him into a third place or fourth place overall, then sort of play with all the other teams and the other competitors, like your Jai Hindleys, your Ben O'Connors, your Romain Bardet, and see how they react when Yates is right up there in the GC. But similarly, Jumbo could do the same with Wilco Kelderman as well. So maybe it's sort of tit for tat there. Based on form recently, I'm probably more favorable towards Yates than Kelderman, but Kelderman's more consistent as a Grand Tour racer. But is he aggressive enough? We don't quite know. I think Pogačar, if he's up to full force, I think it's going to be a really interesting race in terms of what UAE do here. Jumbo are bringing a very similar team to last year, and yes, they completely dominated last year's race, but I don't quite think they can replicate and copy paste that this year. How willing are they to sort of test out new tactics, try out new things this year? Last year's Tour de France was really renversé, like turned on its head at the Col du Granon stage. Where this year, if you don't have that kind of Col du Granon dynamic on one of the days, then what does the rest of the race become? That could certainly become a very interesting part of the Tour de France. Maybe it's going to be a sort of stalemate for a while in that first week of racing where they're looking at each other so sternly and everyone's too scared to make that first move. But they seem so equally matched at certain points as well over the past 2 years, and they've sort of been riding together in the mountains. It's just going to take one of these big sort of game-changing days to really put one of them in the yellow jersey. But I think Pogačar, with his sort of polyvalent style, his aggressive willingness to race, his relentless willingness to race, I think he could definitely crack Jonas. I think in that final week of racing in particular, given that Jonas is looking really hot on form this year, is he peaking too early like Pogačar last year? Has he gone too quick out the blocks? Whereas Pogačar is recovered from injury and he's probably going to age into this race, and his team around him are going to support that, especially once we get into the high mountains in the Alps in that final week of racing, where we see the likes of Felix Gauchard, Rafael Majka, Marc Soler, and Adam Yates really come into their own, whilst your Tish Benoits and so forth are struggling to stay onto that group of favourites. UAE probably do have the upper hand in the team. Pogačar as well. I think he'll probably win that time trial in the final week of racing. UAE have been looking far better in time trialing this year than Jumbo-Visma. I know, hot take, but just look at the recent Dauphiné results. Miguel beat Jonas Vingegaard, even looking at sort of the results of the top 10.
I have a sneaking suspicion Vingegaard let Miguel take that victory. Kind of, yeah.
Vingegaard looked disappointed after the finishing line.
I don't know. I just, they're so good friends, the Danish pros, that Miguel hasn't had a single victory, but only Jonas Vingegaard will know this.
That's true, but Grosjean are also finished in sixth place, which does show a general.
Yeah, I think it's a valid point.
And UAE have been missing the mark this year. Wow, Van Aert in Tour de Suisse missed the mark.
Jumbo.
And Jumbo-Visma have been missing the mark this year in the time trials. Wow, Van Aert missed out in Tour de Suisse. Christophe Laporte looked poor at the Dauphiné when he's a pretty good time trialist. Wilco Kelderman missed the mark in the time trials at Tour de Suisse. Even at Dauphiné earlier this year, I mean, in that team time trial, they're like the team time trial world champions. Yeah, they won that strange TTT, but EF was just like breathing down their neck, which is a surprising sort of turn of events, really. So I just feel like UAE's got this underdog momentum this year. I think we might be underplaying UAE's value, and we're just sort of thinking of Jumbo-Visma as demigods, whereas UAE have a super strong team. And think about where they were in 2021. They controlled that race really well. Last year, they had half a team towards the end. This year, they have a much better team than they've ever sent to the Tour de France since they rebranded, and specifically with Pogačar. So I'm very excited to see how this one's going to go. And I think Pogačar might just have the upper hand.
That first week last year was just tailor-made for Tadej Pogačar. Like, it was incredible. And I think this first week isn't. It's a lot more neutral. Like you both were saying, that they are very similar. There's no cobble stage. There's no long wee finish, that kind of thing. He really showed himself really well, I think.
You say no long wee finish, but the opening stage in Bilbao could probably suit Pogačar there. You could probably get a top three on that kind of stage. Then looking towards stage 2, there's a bonus second sprint at the top of the final climb of the day. Pogačar could gain time there. Going into La Reims on stage 5, I believe it is. Pogačar won there in 2020. If it comes down to the group of favorites in a sprint, Pogačar is probably going to win that. Courtrai probably will be a neutralized GC battle. And then going into Puy de Dôme, it's a very steep finale. Pogačar was good in the Massif Central back in 2020, that year's Tour de France, when he and Roglic really dominated the race at Puy-Marie-Comtal. I'd say it does suit Pogačar. Not quite as tailor-made as last year, but it definitely suits him.
I also think that, like you're saying, Ewan, I think UAE is generally just a bit stronger. I would, on balance, I'm just looking at their team, I would on balance take Grosjean, Micah, Soler, and Yates over Kusk, Kelderman, Benoit. Like, when you just say those names, I know you could throw Wout van Aert in there as well, depending on, like, you know, if he's even in the race, if his kid's being born or whatever. I just think on balance, UAE just have a stronger mountain train. I think they have the ability to dictate the race a bit more, to be honest with you. I think that Jumbo-Visma really took the scruff of the neck of the race last year, especially in that stage 11. But I'm just not convinced they can do the same this year. I think that UAE are the main protagonists.
We've always said this. I think it was absolutely criminal that Adam Yates joined UAE Team Emirates. Such a strong rider, top 10 before, winner of the white jersey. And I think you're both right that, yeah, they're definitely going to be taking 2 Jumbo-Visma this year. But yeah, even the fact that they're leaving out a strong rider as Brendan McNulty just shows the depth of this UAE team, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't even clock that they weren't bringing McNulty. But yeah, he is because he was very good last year. You know, I think we all remember. What was it? Was it Pedergood or something where he was leading Pogačar and Jonas? I mean, eventually on that day, all that really happened was that Pogačar only really gained 4 bonus seconds essentially on Jonas. So, but still, the fact remains that Brandon McNulty was really good in that stage, better than any other Jumbo-Visma domestique, because none of the rest of them were there. So yeah, I think you're right. Scott UAE are just mopping up all sorts of talent right now, and leaving out McNulty is just almost a flex to the rest of the peloton.
UAE aside, we might as well move on to some other things here, and we've kind of we'll get on to predictions later on. But in terms of this year's Tour de France, there's 21 stages available. And which stage do you guys think is going to be the hardest stage of this year's tour? We know stage 17 is incredible with the Col de la Loze, etc. But is there a stage that you guys, or stages, we might as well talk about the hardest stages of the tour, open that up a bit.
Stage 17 has to be the number one for the hardest stage. Col de la Loze, as we saw in 2020, probably the most attritional stage, apart from La Planche time trial, that we had at that year's Tour de France. It's the highest point. It's probably, I think it is the longest climb in the Tour de France. We finished on a downhill, which might change it a little bit, but it's nonetheless, it's still going to be tough. And we have Comé d'Orléans, a couple of difficult climbs that lead on to that finale as well. I also believe the stage 2 Saint-Gervais-Mont-Blanc on stage 15 at the end of the second week of racing is a really tough one. The final 50 kilometers are relentless. And the final kicker to Saint-Gervais-Mont-Blanc, it's a 2-step climb. We have a steep first part, a downhill, and then another steep kicker all the way to the end in Saint-Gervais. I think that is going to be a really attritional alpine stage. And also coming the day before the rest day might also mean that the riders are hungry for something.
I want to throw stage 14 into the mix as well, with the Col de la Ramaz, then followed by the Col de Jouplin. And, that last climb, the Col de Jouplin, that's 11.7k at 8.5% with bonus seconds available at the top. And then it's a descent to the finish. So, if you are a Pogačar or whoever and you're wanting to get a couple of bonus seconds, 11k at 8%, that's definitely considered as an area where you can make some serious ground up. And I think with the descent to the finish, kind of an out of sight, out of mind sort of mentality, because if you're kind of just around the corners and they can't see you, it's like a mental game as well. I think that's going to be a really brutal stage as well. You could also probably say that stage 1, actually, we all remember Opiomi and the chaos of the first road stage, lots of short, sharp, narrow climbs where positioning is key. I think everybody will be thinking about that nightmare day where so much of the peloton crashed that being at the front will be absolutely integral. And with such the yellow jerseys on the line, the GC riders won't want to lose time. There's the punchers like Van der Poels and Wout van Aert and Alaphilippe who want to keep in good position. I reckon that might not be the hardest day, but I think that it will probably be the most stressful, where the peloton will be really on edge. So I think that stage 1, although not on paper hardest, I think it could be mentally probably the hardest one for the peloton to get through for sure.
Also, I feel like stage 9 and stage 13 will be stressful as well, because these are stages that end on steep summit finishes and there'll be a lot of sort of emphasis and pressure put on them. At the end of the first week of racing, it's the new Puy de Dôme climb. There's probably going to be a lot of sort of speculation of how's it going to be ridden, yada yada yada, because they don't know the climb very well. They probably haven't even done a reconnaissance ride, given that the road only opened about a month ago. So that will be a bit of an unknown, and the riders probably will feel very tense about that one. It's the Massif Central, which is usually a quite chaotic part of France when it comes to the Tour. I feel like that stage as well could be quite a big deal. And then Grand Colombier on stage 13, it's 14 Juillet. Lots of fans on the side of the road, also with the added pressure of it being a steep summit finish, where Pogačar won in the past. There'll be a lot of pressure to try to flip the script there.
To what extent do you think the time trial is going to be hard? Because it's not a La Planche de Belfi time trial, but it's not exactly a flat affair, to say the least.
Yeah, it's a bit of a weird one, isn't it? It kind of suits quite a few riders, but will probably be for the GC guys to probably take the victory on that day. But yeah, it is a tricky one, because there is tough sections in this 2 kilometers at like 9% or something like that. I think it'll be intriguing to see what teams do in terms of bike changes and stuff like that. That's become weirdly normal in TTs and Grand Tours, actually. The Giro this year, the Planche de Belfi time trial, it seems to be more and more frequent that teams are having to decide between TT bikes and road bikes. So I'm interested to see what teams do in terms of that. Are they going to swap at the bottom of the climb and go with a TT bike? Is that worth it, the 2K at 9%, in terms of the time that you kind of lose? I'm not really too sure. We saw in the Giro, I can't remember how long Geraint Thomas or the riders on balance were still, but let's say it was like 10 seconds or something like that. I don't know, maybe 15 seconds. Are you going to gain that time back? But then it kind of levels off at the top. So is that actually beneficial to have a road bike there? I think there's a lot to take into consideration there. It's probably one of the harder TTs in terms of pacing. I'd probably say that Planche de Belfi was sort of relatively flat rolling and then just Planche de Belfi. Whereas this is like climb, flat, very steep climb again, and then levels off. So I think it's going to be an interesting TT to watch, because you could very much have riders who leading at time point one and then capitulate by the end. I reckon that's a very likely possibility.
It's so short. It's only 20 kilometers. I don't think we're going to get big gaps on that T2. Maybe I'll be horribly wrong with that prediction, but I think the time gaps will be quite small.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. But yeah, I think we're all kind of agreed that stage 17 is probably the big cheese in terms of these stages. But nevertheless, looking again, well, it is Tour de France week, so we are going to just continue the theme of the biggest bike race in the world. And I mean, we've had kind of most of the selections for the teams and some key names missing out. And who do you kind of think is the big names that are missing out of this year's Tour de France? Obviously, Primož Roglič isn't going. Remco Evenepoel seems like he's not going. The world champion, Belgian champion now as well. Is there any ones that you're surprised about as well?
It's generally like sprinters, actually. We're missing, of course, Quickstep are bringing Jakobsen, but Merlier's at home, Sam Bennett's at home, Arnaud Démare, there's the whole caboclo about that as well, but Demare's not here, which is a bit strange. I can understand people's arguments for that because there's quite a few sprint stages. If you say that on balance, there's a third of the stages are going to be sprint stages and Groupama aren't going to be represented in those, then, do you need a whole team around Godou for the mountains? Who knows? But I think there's generally quite a lot of sprinters who are missing out on this race, but I can't really think of the main GC riders. I guess you could say Ayuso, but we had a clip about that last week. I don't know. Are there any other significant GC riders at home? I can't remember.
Can you hear that? Chris Froome.
Oh,
I
God.
think we can all hear it, feel it in our hearts.
Oh.
4-time Tour de France champion. In terms of sort of a name, though, in terms of name value, that's a big one to leave at home. They bought him in 2021 with the sort of with the objective of sort of getting him back to the Tour de France, getting back to full fitness. He's been saying all year, yeah, I'm building up for July. After he had this breakaway day in Rwanda, the post-race interview was, oh yeah, I'm on track to be at the Tour de France in July. Whoopsies. He has said that he is going to the Tour de France next year, apparently, which will finish in his new home city of Nice in France. This year, I'm surprised. They've taken sort of, no offense, but Guillaume Boivin instead of Chris Froome in terms of name value. They've already got that Quebecois name in Hugo All. Chris Froome probably would have brought more to the table than Guillaume Boivin in terms of getting headlines and getting sort of column inches. He would have been the most prolific Tour de France champion on that start list. That's all I'm saying. Also, it would have been great for the meme content for the next 3 weeks.
We've said it so many times, Chris Froome kind of every time he doesn't win a race is kind of just etching away at his legacy, that ferocious tour dominating force that he was in the start of the 2010s, mid 2010s. But yeah, I think I completely agree, Ewan. On the publicity side, he's a huge name still. And yeah, why are they paying him this much money if they're not going to use him in the biggest race in the world? Even if you went in a breakaway, that would make headlines everywhere. We saw it with the Alpe d'Huez stage. And yeah, is there anyone else kind of you can think of that we would want to see here? Any national champions or something like that?
Matthias Vacek.
Yeah, good point.
Being little track is competitive nowadays, which is good to see, but I feel like Vacek would have been really cool, really interesting to see how he would have done at this Tour de France. A couple of sort of breakaway days, he could have been a sort of breakout star, if you will, of this year's Tour de France in that new Czech Champions jersey.
Hershey's not here as well. I know that's kind of not perhaps massively surprising because his role in the team is... It's a little bit weird. I don't really know what Hershey's role in UAE is. He's a puncher, but he's kind of not the puncher of 2020 that we've seen him be. So it's kind of like he's useful for some puncher finishes to lead out Pogačar, but, can the rest of the team do 90% of what he would do? Like, yeah, probably. But, he is Swiss champ, although you won't be able to see it on his jersey, so maybe that doesn't even really matter. But I don't know, Hershey maybe is that one which we're missing. I don't know. I'm just literally looking for the national champs, just like, who are we missing?
I don't know much about Switzerland, but the flag's a big plus.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Anyways, Mark Hirschi, I do think is actually quite frustrated that he didn't go. I thought he'd try to make a point about it at the Tour de Suisse and try to win a stage. That didn't happen. In terms of Uno X, Devasnes has been really good this year in France in racing there. Won some small sort of French races. He's been podiuming.
Is he not going?
He's not going.
Whoa!
And he's the newly crowned Norwegian champion. And
That
Uno X
is
have already announced their start list, and he's not involved.
shoot.
Also,
I thought he was going. Oh,
the
that's
other
awkward.
Johannesson brother is also not going. Tobias is going, but Anders is not.
I'm still in shock.
Yeah. It seems a bit weird to me, but Quick Step just in general, right? So they're bringing like Bajoli and Van Zevenen, who, no offense to them, haven't been that great this year. Kasper Asgreen has just won Danish champs in the TT. And, you know, they've also just got some other riders in there, like Mara Schmidt or something like that. Like, is it just me who's wondering why they're bringing Van Zevenen and Bajoli? I just feel like there's better riders. Or is that just me being rude?
Remco.
Well, yeah, exactly. I just feel like there's other riders. I'm not sure why they're bringing.
Van Zevenant is the one I don't quite get. I think Bajoli could be
Yeah.
decent, but Van Zevenant I don't quite understand. Bringing maybe a Jan Hit from the G-Dog, try to get him a stage win or something. I mean, there are plenty of other sort of other teams with other riders who should probably be here. Team DSM are bringing an interesting squad. They didn't bring Dainese. Some people thought he'd come here, but they brought Welsford instead, both of whom are rumored to be leaving at the end of the year. Intermarché haven't brought Herbert Thiessen, which for me, I know I'm all about the Binny train, but Herbert Thiessen, I'm worried he's not going to get a Grand Tour start this year. And he should
Yeah.
be. Also,
Yes.
Arnaud Delis, similarly, not going to the Tour de France.
Yeah. I was going to say Gerben
What?
Thiessen. Yeah. Like Gerben Thiessen, right? He could have won a stage of a Giro, right? People were saying he should have gone to the Giro because if he's going to the Tour, which seemed to be the plan, right? That's what everybody was sort of predicting. Gerben Thiessen not going to the Tour, it's like, well, you could have gone to the Giro and probably won a stage. So what's going on there? Going back to DSM, actually, I know it's a little bit early, and maybe it's just me being Yorkshire, but Max Poole has been good.
Here we
Why?
go.
Why?
I mean, it's
Why
fair.
is why? Like they're bringing. I'm sorry, they're bringing Matthew Dingham.
Somebody has to fill the lower rankings.
Yeah, but then Max Poole is actually like he has beaten Bardet. Like in Tour of Romandy, he was better than him. Like he has been actually really good. And we're not in the era of young riders need to go to the Vuelta as their first Grand Tour to kind of prove himself. Like we're in a different era now, and I do think that Max Poole could have added something to this Giro squad. And I just think that DSM have missed out there as well, to be honest with you. And I don't think that's me just being like patriotic to my county. I think that's just a straight up fact.
Also, the Roman conquest is not going to happen. Romain Grégoire as well, knocked out of the Groupama lineup. And as we have been recording, UAE have actually publicly announced their Tour de France start list. Domen Novak has been knocked out, which is a bit heartbreaking for me. He was replaced by Trentin, who will be making the Tour de France start list, which is good to see. But
Trentin's, he was good in the Dauphiné.
He was good in the Dauphiné. Planning on, well, he could be leaving next year for Tudor Pro Cycling as well. But Vigert Slakalengens, it has made it in for UAE.
I mean, we had that with the Ayuso clip where we said Ayuso should go in for the Norwegian. But yeah, well, I thought we only had a handful of riders here, but this discussion has actually widened somewhat more. And yeah, there's a whole host of riders that probably should have been on the plane to France, but aren't. But yeah, okay, who's your key rider? If you have to pick one shock who's not here, just to finish this segment, who's the big surprise for you? I'm going to say Remco Evenepoel because he's the world champion and he's in good shape. So, but we all know that. I've been banging on about it for weeks.
I'm saying Max Poole.
Fair enough.
Have to.
Okay, based on strength or based on name?
Oh, well, are you going to say Froome?
I will say Froome because I
think it's fair. It's fair. Yeah, it's fair.
Froome, okay. There are riders. Matthias Vacek is a much better fitness than Chris Froome and will probably get more results. But Chris Froome will make headlines worldwide. Even if he finishes 55th on a stage or not, the fact that Chris Froome would be here, I think, would make headlines. Even if he makes a breakaway, that would be the most talked about breakaway probably of that week of the Tour de France. He is such a big name, and I don't quite understand why Israel Premier Tech have missed him out from the squad when they brought him in to do this exact thing and to raise publicity for their squad, especially if they're doing they're pushing their charity work this year, like last year. It would have been a brilliant opportunity for Chris Froome to generate some publicity and some hype.
It's weird because Chris Froome's out of contract to the end of this year with Israel Premier Tech. And I don't know, maybe this is a discussion for another day, but
great value for money.
I just don't know what's going to happen to him at the end of this year. Because if I was Israel, I ain't re-signing him. Maybe he'll get back to Ineos. They're desperate.
They will, though. He's Chris Froome. Like, they have to sort of keep him on. He also said in his interview about not making the team that he's going to be there next year. You'd assume it would be with Israel Premier Tech, but who else is going to take him on? Human Powered Health.
Yeah, we might as well. What's going to happen with Chris Froome? Because if he's basing himself on this Tour de France selection thing, and now it's not happening, he's very expensive, as we know as well. The reports of 5 million euros for seasons that don't really equate to that salary. So, yeah, what is the next step for Chris Froome after being snubbed here at the Tour de France?
I mean, I think that his value, like, there's no way that he can negotiate that price again. There's no way that a team would take him on for that amount of price. I would honestly consider, we're just talking about Trenton with Tudor. Would Chris Froome go to Tudor Pro Cycling? They seem to actually have aspirations of going world tours, so they actually do need results, but would they consider a Chris Froome as they've got a very young gun team? How much do they value the experience of a four-time Tour de France champion in helping their riders to develop? I just don't personally see that a World Tour team, this is an era where everyone's very much aware of the relegation battle. You can't be taking up your budget with some guy who isn't bringing in results. I think that he would have to stay at Pro Conti. I think at Tudor, people talk about they've got a pretty decent budget. Maybe that's a decent move that he might do.
Well, Alberto Dainese is also rumored to Tudor as well, bringing in more firepower. There's also room for a climber probably at that squad, a top tier climber to add to their ranks. But if he wants to make the Tour de France, he has to be on sort of a Tour de France squad that's in the loop. Chris Froome has been learning and improving his French over the past couple of years. And there is a certain team with a big name oil brand, petroleum people backing them, who are losing a very notable Tour de France star of the 2010s, Total Energy. Froome jumping across to there, that would really fit in with their new image of being the washed French team that signs old people. And you know what? I think it could work out. But to be honest, I just think he'd probably stay at Israel Premier Tech. He's been really focusing on the charity aspect and giving back and making this team more than just a bike team. And I think Chris Froome is probably on board with that project. They raced the Tour of Rwanda this year, and Froome was there. It was a big deal for them. He has got them a lot of publicity. So I would suggest he probably stay with the team. And also he's built up this relationship with a very, very rich man by the name of Sylvan Adams, and maybe he would want to sort of keep on this partnership they have going.
So we kind of agreed that basically Froome going somewhere is not because he's going to get results, it's because of his celebrity presence, like his history and the weight that his name brings. That's essentially what he's bringing to the table. Like, he ain't winning.
Look at his stats on Pro Cycling Stats. It's gone from like in the thousands in 2018 all the way to like the double digits. Obviously in 2019 we know what happened there, but like following on there when he went to Israel Premier Tech, like what's the best result you can think Froome did? Like Tour Rwanda, no offense to it, but a rider like Froome should be walking all over those riders.
He was 14th at Mercantour. It's not bad. But this reminds me of football referencing coming, guys. This reminds me of David Beckham in sort of the late 2000s when he moved to LA Galaxy. Froome's move to LA Galaxy was like him going to Israel Premier Tech. Then he went to Paris Saint-Germain and then went back to America. Maybe Froome is about to make a brief World Tour appearance before he moves back to obscurity once again. Or he starts a team or so forth. Who knows? Maybe Ineos can't.
Ineos would take him.
But Ineos is so desperate.
Yeah,
like
Ineos are desperate.
Equivalent.
Yeah, I mean, well, don't you think UAE are the Paris Saint-Germain equivalent, or are they more the Manchester City?
I would say Man City. I think Ineos is maybe more Manchester United, but football metaphor, football.
I've lost it already.
But I don't know. Maybe if we're drawing comparisons between Beckham and Froome, Froome is going to make that brief World Tour stint before he goes back into sort of human-powered health or Israel.
Who would take him? Like anyone on the World Tour, can you think of?
I mean, UAE are hiring a lot of people, but I don't think they would hire Froome. We have a lot of transfer rumors at the moment coming from UAE. But I don't think he'd fit in. Astana. Ooh, the Cavendish to Froome pipeline.
Actually, yeah.
I don't know. There's just like there's no real good reason for Chris Froome to go to Astana. Like there really isn't. They've already got the main man in Lutsenko. Like Chris Froome is going to be
road champion, national road champion. We didn't mention that earlier.
Yeah, like Chris Froome's domestiquing like for Lutsenko. Ain't no way he's bullying his way in there.
Lead out man for Glebser. It's 2024.
I mean, this year they're going to break the record, the Eddie Merckx record with Mark Cavendish potentially. So next year they want to make sure that Froome joins the 5 Tour de France club.
Imagine Astana just swooping in and decide we're going to take this sprint to get him one last win. We're going to get this one GC guy and get him one last win. And then we're just going to finish. And then that's it. And they just claim all this victory. They are just like the cherry on top of the cake.
This is their new niche in cycling. Yeah. It's like bringing over riders for their like final farewell season. Maybe in like the year is 2036 and Tadej Pogačar is moving to Astana, Kazakhstan to get a 6th Tour de France victory. And they're the team that are going to push him across the line.
Who knows what will happen with Froome? I think we're all kind of just sad that it's kind of declining his legacy in a way. Every time he goes on to a race and doesn't win it, it's kind of that monster that we all recall isn't there anymore. But nevertheless, Froome aside, that was a bit of a bonus conversation. But the Tour de France is happening, so we might as well. We'll do predictions. So we'll start a bit of like what podium, the jerseys, and then a bit hot takes, as Ewan calls it, and then we'll come back and laugh at ourselves after the Tour de France, or maybe celebrate. I don't know. Who do you guys think are going to finish on the podium? Bear in mind, Ewan and I have already done this over on the previous show on the Second Day channel, but I'm going to change my podium just to double up on it. But yeah, Patrick, you can go first.
Actually, I've done a preview. I just haven't uploaded it yet, but I'll stick with it. I'm going to go with third will be Hindley, second will be Vingegaard, and first will be Pogačar.
This is exactly Ewan's podium as well.
That's it. Do you want me to go on to green, or do you want to do a yellow for everyone and then go around?
I mean, just go for it. Yeah, we'll just do all of it, and then we can laugh at each other. I think it's raining here. I'm in Yorkshire, and it's raining and sunshine. What is going on?
I'll go green jersey. It's a little bit rogue, I will admit. I think that everybody's looking at like a Jasper Philipsen, but I'm going to go with Dylan Groenewegen to win the green jersey.
Oh, wow.
I think the polka dot jersey, logically, it goes to Pogačar, but I'm going to go with Tom Pidcock, and the white jersey will go to Pogačar. Just because I think that Ineos needs some out of this race. It's probably not going to be GC. Pidcock will just go and do his thing in a breakaway and win polka dot jersey, because like he's just, I don't know, he's hiding underneath a table.
I don't have an umbrella, so I need to improvise.
That's my kind of prediction. Hot takes, I will go with Maxime Van Hils will win stage 1. And I will say that Adam Yates will finish on the podium as well.
But even though you didn't pick him on the podium,
he'll finish in 4th then. You want to double up on these things. I'll say that he finishes top. Yeah, he'll finish 4th place then. That's my kind of hot take there. I think that Pogačar will also win 4 stages. Those are my kind of 3 hot takes.
Okay, so my podium is exactly the same. So Hindley, Vingegaard, and Pogačar. Exciting, I know. Green, I think, is going to go to Jasper Philipsen. The white jersey is going to go to Pogačar. And purely based on historical trends since COVID, that the winner of the GC has won the polka dots, I therefore have to go with the trend and say Pogačar's going to win polka dots. Hot takes time. I think Mathieu van der Poel will win a mountain stage. I think he's going to do a Giro 2022 kind of exhibition where he He performs really well in the first couple of days. I think he definitely could win the opening stage in Bilbao, take the yellow jersey, wear it for a couple of days, then later in the race try to go in the breakaway and fight for a stage win. And for that, I think there's maybe sort of one of these downhill stages later on that come in the Alps that could really suit Mathieu van der Poel, where he gets a sort of debut mountain stage. One of my catchphrases is that whatever Wout van Aert can do, Mathieu van der Poel can do as well. So I think Van der Poel will get that mountain stage. We saw at the Giro last year how close he came, especially on that day that was won by Buitrago. He was right up there in the breakaway all day, maybe went a little bit too early, was too giddy in the breakaway. This year, I think he'll be maybe a little bit more patient in the breakaways and could get something. Other hot takes include the fact that this isn't really a hot take, it's quite a cold take, but I think Adam Yates will absolutely play Jumbo-Visma in the mountains. I think he could be a really decisive character in this Tour de France. He's just so good, and I'm really excited to see him play this new role. I think Fred Wright will win a Tour de France stage. I think he's now sort of popped his victory-winning cherry.
That could have gone weird.
I'll just rephrase that. He's finally won. So now the domino effect will continue. A bit like Mass Payson last year when he hadn't won a Grand Tour stage and then the floodgates opened and he kept on winning Grand Tour stages. I think Fred Wright's going to have that same momentum here. I think we're going to have a rogue yellow jersey. Someone from the breakaway or a decent rider will get the yellow jersey from stage 5 until stage 9. I think that there'll be too much pressure on the GC teams to lead the race that early on. So we could see someone like Tom Pidcock, Quinn Simmons, Valentin Madouas, and so forth probably take the yellow jersey for a couple of days to alleviate the pressure from the GC teams. And I believe Uno X will be the most underwhelming team of the Tour de France.
The hate continues. Corrections corner, by the way. It's not whatever Wout can do, Mathieu van der Poel can do. That's not what you say. You say whatever Wout can do, Mathieu van der Poel can do better.
More salt. I didn't want to be that salty.
Exactly. Just continuing our theme of just being Wout van Aert bashers, basically.
I like Wout van Aert. I'm not bashing him.
That's the thing. I like it too, but the people in the comments seem to think that we hate him. Yeah.
The rain's back. What is happening? Any podcast listeners, I'm currently battling with the temperamental weather of Yorkshire. But nevertheless, for my podium, I think, I can't even remember my podium from the preview. So I will just make one up, and I'm not going to say Jonas Vingegaard winning because I didn't say that last year and he won. So I'm going to say the winner of this year's edition is third place. We have Adam Yates. Second place, Wilco Kelderman, and Tadej Pogačar wins it.
Kelderman?
Yeah, because Jonas Vingegaard has a problem or something.
Fair. 2020 vision.
In the green jersey, I'm going with my heart this time. Biniam Girmay takes it. And polka dot jersey, I think it's going to be Thibaut Pinot. In terms of hot takes, Biniam wins a stage. Hopefully, Uno X wins a stage, despite the UN hate.
Can I retract my previous comment? I think.
Which one? The Wout van Aert bash or
take?
The Wout van Aert bash, the Uno X bash, or the Chris Froome bash?
I don't actually think they'll be the most underwhelming team. I think that's probably going to be Total or Arkea. And I love my boys. But I feel like Arkea is going to be underwhelming here at the Tour de France once more.
Oh, Ineos. Ineos could be underwhelming.
I have a feeling Michał Kwiatkowski is going to win a stage.
God, I would absolutely love that.
Are they satisfied with the stage? Do they?
Well, they didn't get one at the Giro again. So this is kind of what they need this because they're not finishing in top 5 in GC.
Well, yeah, exactly. This is why
there's the hot take. Yeah, exactly.
He's going to do, stage 5. The one that finishes in, what was it? Is it Laurent?
Lagrange, yeah.
Lagrange. That is where Mark Hirschi almost did that raid in the 2020 stage 9. Probably my favourite Tour de France stage ever. Pidcock is going to recreate Hirschi 2020.
Ever? So Pidcock, Yorkshireman winning on top of Alpe d'Huez, didn't make it. Didn't make the cut.
Yeah, that's pretty good. it was pretty good. That is the stage which I was on Netflix, by the way. just letting people know. It's what reference to what Scott was saying earlier. But I think Webber needs to play Pidcock. I reckon he got off stage last year. They got to build a bit more confidence in him. I reckon he'll have a bit more. If he gets tied to Carlos Rodriguez for like finishing 6th or 7th in GC, I'm going to be pissed off, man. I'll be so heated.
Who do you think is going to win the team classification, the most exciting competition of the whole Tour de France?
Bahrain. Pagina. I reckon, getting the whole team up on the podium for the team classification, that'll be...
They've done it before.
Yeah, I think Bahrain, they give him a break a lot.
Bahrain could be good. Bilbao, Landa, Pauls, Haig. But similarly, UAE might have, they'll probably have Yates and Pogačar in top 10, as will probably Kelderman and Vingegaard, and I'm probably adding up one of the other guys from UAE and Jumbo. I feel like it's probably one of those two, but I'd really like it to be Bahrain as well.
But nevertheless, that's...
the Combativity Award, hello.
Oh, okay, sorry. Which French rider do you think is going to win that?
It'll be Pino, because it's
yeah,
his
exactly,
last tour.
yeah, exactly.
He'll be in one breakaway.
No doubt,
like,
no doubt.
Most rider, easily.
I am going to say it's going to go to either Matty van der Poel or Tom Pidcock. I think they will probably go ham in the breakaways this year. I don't think either of those teams will have top 5 ambitions in reality. So they're probably going to have to go for it. I feel like they're probably going to light things up. They both have a good chance of wearing yellow at least once and winning at least one stage. And last year we saw they gave it to Wout, they gave it to Hirschi in 2020. I feel like they're moving away from the sort of purely French picks and now towards the sort of the headline grabbing sort of fan favorite picks. And I feel like that could continue with Van der Poel and Pidcock.
Okay, well, moving now to our final part of the show, the favorite part. We haven't really done comments, reactions, but we might save that for another day. It was a bit heavy with the Tour de France stuff, but make sure to comment down below if you want to maybe get featured. If you make us chuckle, definitely you will. But rider of the week with nationals kind of the central focus. Oh, actually, no. Sorry. We forgot the last part. We didn't cover it last time. The Vuelta at Colombia happened as well. And Miguel Angel Lopez dominated this. I thought he had actually written it before. So it's the 2.2. So it's the kind of, it's not the Tour of Colombia that we saw in the past. That race hasn't really revived itself, but this is the, what would you say, amateur kind of, it's not amateur, but like the continental team, club teams kind of thing. And Miguel Angel Lopez absolutely dominated. Yeah, what did you think of this dominance?
It was just a meme that popped up on just occasionally. Didn't he even win like a bunch sprint or something in this race? It was just ridiculous. Don't get me wrong, it's kind of funny when you just look at the result and it's like, he won by, 6 minutes and 17 seconds. It's like, come on. We have to mention Miguel Angel Lopez. He's just...
And all the classifications as well.
He won everything.
How many stages did he win?
All of them apart from one.
Yeah, like what? And there's 9 stages.
10 if you include the prologue, which he won.
Yeah, you're right.
TT Superman Lopez. He's defrosted this amazing time trialing performance. This is a man who lost 6 minutes at La Planche a couple years back. And to be fair, he's racing against not the highest level of competition. Once again, it's like Beyonce turning up to your high school talent show. But it was just a meme. And what I loved is that like Medellin gave him a full yellow like skin suit. He had the full yellow outfit and all that for this race. It was like he was at the Tour de France. If he were at the Tour de France, he probably would have actually had a decent chance of making top 10. But alas, he's currently in Colombia winning 9 stages of the world famous Vuelta a Colombia. He's probably won more this year than he's ever won in another season before.
Yeah, definitely.
I know the level of races aren't quite the same, but this is still pretty impressive.
It's just a pure morale boost.
Glorified pat on the back. But yeah, I just thought we should throw him in there because him and Lutsenko seems to be 2 podcast favorites. But yeah, we'll continue to survey what's happening here. But anyways, coming to rider of the week, and I'm tempted to give it to Miguel Angel Lopez after this. But who's your rider of the week, guys?
I tried to reserve him early in the week. I'm going to go with Alex Segat for finishing second in the Belgian time trial behind Wabner and in the road race behind Evenepoel. I mean, he's good at one-day races. He can climb. He can kind of time trial. He's either Belgium or Lutsenko. It's in reforming. He's in reforming stages. He's only 20. Like, this guy's got plenty of time to develop into the Lutsenko role that we all know and love.
I could continue the meme and pick Lutsenko, given that he won both the road race and the time
please
trial.
do. Please do. I mean, it's Kazakhstan. It's like Astana versus Astana.
It's true. The team is literally called Astana Kazakhstan. Kazakhstan with a Q. Can I go for a double act?
Sure, why not?
I'm going to go for probably one of the most successful cycling households we have at the moment. Urška Žigot and Tadej Pogačar. Between them, they won 3 of the 4 Slovenian titles on offer this week. And also, it became a bit of a meme during the week because a popular Belgian newspaper described Urška Žigot as Tadej Pogačar's girlfriend, and then it became a meme that people calling Pogačar Urška Žigot's boyfriend. So let's continue the good love and have Pogačar and Urška Žigot. Also, there was a funny video of Pogačar staying at this place in Slovenia, and there was this corner called the Poggy Corner, and it was like, he had this big chair and Pogačar was sitting in it, and they had this little jersey above him as well. It was very cute.
I mean, I kind of want to pick Miguel Angel Lopez because we've never seen this kind of dominance in such a long stage race, but like Ewan said, the whole Beyonce. Who thought we would mention Beyonce so many times on a cycling podcast? I'm also tempted to pick Matthias Skjelmose, but that seems a bit too obvious. So I'm going to go with the 19-year-old Josh Tarling, who won his first national senior title and also decided to not go into the under-23 race because he said it was unfair because he's getting so much support from Ineos Grenadier. So he felt like it wasn't a level playing field. So I think... yeah, I think that's enough for like being right of the week. So and he really went for it in the criterium race and the road race as well for his teammate. So yeah, a bit of a shame Connor Swift couldn't quite finish it off for the Ineos boys. Yeah, we didn't talk about that either. Ineos not winning, not even podium their home race was a bit of a shame.
Washed.
It's the second year in a row this has happened as well.
Washed.
Quite embarrassing. But on that high note, that's basically it for our 22nd episode. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, comment down below as well. We've hit over 1,000, so thank you to every single one of you. We will be unrolling our Patreon very soon, where we're going to have various competitions, prize giveaways or whatever on a very regular basis. But anyways, you can check out all the various social medias down below, and of course, as always, thank you for watching, and we will see you around.